With the release of Volume 27, 3 new side stories were released showcasing events happening with other characters during or after the events of the volume. This video will summarize the side story covering what the Emilia camp is doing while Subaru is in Volcanica. I highly recommend you check out the previous summary on my channel, or else you may be confused about what's actually happening. I would like to also recommend that you read the side story yourself on Eminent Translation's website, and a big thanks to him for actually translating the side story. Either way, let's begin. The story starts with Emilia approaching Volcanica and asking him to drive away people who approach the Petelguese watchtower. In response to this, Volcanica gives his usual praise, showing that he's still dormant mentally. Emilia clarifies that Volcanica must drive people away, but he must do it very gently, and asks if Volcanica understands what she is saying. But again, he gives his stock response about her being the almighty petitioner and all of that. The reason why Emilia was asking Volcanica to guard the tower was because the group decided to go back to Roswaal's manor, so they needed someone to defend the tower in their absence since sand time was now removed. Not only that, but completing the trials also made the tower essentially free to use for anyone who appeared, hence why it needed to be guarded. Especially if the witch cult found out that the tower was accessible, they might rush to the tower and try to unseal Satella. Volcanica is now the only deterrent they have whilst they leave the tower. Emilia was concerned since she had to find Subaru and Rem, but as she was worrying if Volcanica understood what she was saying, Volcanica bent down and stretched out his claw, and one of his talons then fragmented and broke off, which was then caught by Emilia. Emilia assumed that this was Volcanica giving an answer. In other words, Volcanica will defend the tower. Anastasia chimed in, believing that the talon fragment was like a promise from Volcanica that he wouldn't attack anyone. Emilia then asked Beatrice for her interpretation, and Beatrice is unsure but states that maybe you could interpret it that way. She then follows up, stating that the talon of Volcanica is made up of a large abundance of mana, something which can be seen by a dragon's eye from far away. So again, my interpretation of what Beatrice is saying is that if Emilia holds the fragment, Volcanica would be able to see the mana emitted from the talon fragment and knows that Emilia is Emilia and won't attack them. So in other words, maybe the fragment is like an identification card, and if you hold it, then Volcanica won't attack the people that hold the fragment. Moving on, Julius was a bit confused by Beatrice's statement. Beatrice stated that the talon was made of mana rather than the talon possessing or containing mana. Beatrice states that explaining the origins of dragons to the people of this day and age is a pain, but in short, dragons are living beings which are essentially large bundles of mana. There was then a further explanation that ground dragons are not made of mana. This is actually explained using the kanji in Japanese, which you can see the explanation on screen. Either way, it's elaborated that Volcanica is obviously different from normal ground dragons or sky dragons, for example. So with that decided, and with the Talon and melee in tow, getting through the desert would be easy. Anastasia then stated that people like Melee helped her wake up, and with that she was going to repay the favour to everyone. After some banter, there was a focus on the issue at hand, Subaru and Rem who disappeared from the tower. The first task would be to go back to Roswaal's manor. We then get a time skip to when Emilia and the gang arrive at Roswaal's manor, and we see that Roswaal is asking who exactly Emilia is. Roswaal states that he doesn't know who Emilia is, and Emilia is of course shocked and asked if Roswaal doesn't remember her. Of course, it was strange since people like Julius and Beatrice remembered who Emilia was after the death of Libat and Katos. However, Roswaal couldn't remember or identify Emilia. However, as Emilia worried, Roswaal piped up saying that he was joking. Of course, Emilia was stunned and Roswaal explained that it was just a prank. Beatrice was mad, stating that it was not funny, and she threw some luggage at him. However, Roswaal simply caught it. Roswaal explains that he received a letter from them when they were at Marula. For those wondering, from memory, I believe Marula was the town near the Petelguese watchtower, the one that Emilia and Subaru entered and then drank milk from, and that's when the bartender told him to watch for the birds. Beatrice then asks why Roswaal was joking about something like that when it was difficult for them to, survive at the watchtower and the Ugria sand dunes. But Roswaal explains that he knew it was difficult, so he made the joke to ease in the mood. Ram called out to Roswaal, and immediately Roswaal noticed that Ram did something unusual, and stated that Ram has been taking a heavy burden. Roswaal then stated that later on he will tend to her. Ram then asked if it could just be both of them. However, Roswaal said they can bring along Frederica, but Ram again stated that both of them should be alone, and Roswaal agreed. So we see that Ram has some sort of dominance here. Emilia then asked Roswaal if he read the letter, and Roswaal again confirmed it, stating his surprise that Volcanica was at the Petelguese watchtower. Anastasia jumped in, stating that that wasn't the only surprise. We see that here, Julius, Scarf Donor, and Anastasia are present at the Roswaal Manor, and we see that the Anastasia camp sent a letter to the Iron Fangs and will meet up with them soon. In other words, the Iron Fangs would be coming to the Roswaal Manor. Likewise, Julius offered his services to Emilia and the group because Rem and Subaru went missing, and Julius wouldn't be able to live with himself if he couldn't visually confirm their safety himself. Scarf Donor also offered her assistance, but noted that it was up to Roswaal since he was the lord of the manor, to which Beatrice just said that Roswaal wouldn't be able to say no because he isn't qualified to do that. Roswaal, however, just smiled without saying anything, so his silence was most likely his way of agreeing with Scarf Donor and Julius's help and accepting it. Emilia then asks Roswaal about Subaru, to which he responds that they were most likely teleported to the south of the Valachian Empire. Roswaal then states that it's very difficult to get into the Valachian region of the world, even for him. Since the country had sky dragons, for example, he wouldn't be able to fly into the country undetected because he would get spotted by them and then a fight would ensue. Beatrice then stated that they could sneak in when the sky dragons attack Roswaal. However, Roswaal said that whilst they sneak in, he would most likely die. And as he said this, he put his hand on Beatrice's head and Beatrice just shaked off his hand. Internally though, Emilia disagreed with this plan since sacrificing someone to save Subaru would make Subaru upset. Emilia of course asks for Anastasia's help, and Anastasia once again agrees that she would help, especially because that's the reason why she came to the Roswaal Manor. Roswaal then states that Garfiel and Otto will be back soon, so they should wait for them to arrive and then ask them for their wisdom, and with that the story ends. So I actually have quite a lot to say. We've had a revelation that dragons are made of mana. So I'm assuming when I say dragons, I mean like the super strong dragons like Volcanica, for example. So I'm just wondering, why is the blood of the dragon special if it's also made up of a bundle of mana? Maybe the blood of the dragon has more concentrated mana, hence why it's valuable. Because otherwise, why couldn't you use any body part of a dragon to heal people? Because at the end of the day, it's all made of mana. I'm not sure, but it's food for thought. This side story also shows how Garfiel, Roswaal and Otto are being integrated into Arc 7. After the meetup, they'll of course travel to Wallachia together. The most interesting thing though is the fact that the Iron Fangs are going to the Roswaal mansion. With Julius' statement about wanting to confirm the safety of Subaru and Rem himself, this may mean that he might actually travel to Wallachia alongside Roswaal and Garfiel. And on top of that, due to the fact that the Iron Fangs are going to the Roswaal Manor, Mimi, Hitaro, Tivi or Ricardo quotation mark clone may also go to Volcanica with Anastasia, so it's really interesting. One thing I noticed is after the time skip, we didn't see Meili say anything or any mention of Meili, so I'm assuming she's still at the mansion, but it's weird that she didn't have any lines of dialogue or anything. Also, it was stated that the witch cult might raid the tower if they find out that the trials have been completed, but considering the gluttonies arrived at the tower midway, I'm assuming the witch cult might already know that the Pleiades watchtower has been sort of liberated, but that's just my opinion. But thank you for watching, thank you to my channel members, and I'll see you guys next time.